If you have a green card and you are planning to travel, or you are already outside the United States right now, you have probably seen the headlines and the posts saying DHS is blocking green card holders from returning. That kind of claim spreads fast because it hits a real fear. What if you leave for a family emergency and then you cannot get back home? Here is what we are going to do today, calmly and clearly. First, we will separate what is actually being reported from what is not confirmed. Second, I will explain the real rules that decide whether a lawful permanent resident can be admitted at the airport or border, and why some people get pulled into secondary inspection. Third, I will give you a practical travel checklist so you can reduce risk before you leave and handle questions the right way when you come back. Now, one important note up front. In most normal situations, green card holders return to the US without drama every single day. But there are a few patterns where CBP can increase scrutiny, and those patterns are exactly where rumors get born. Here is the part most people miss. When people say DHS is blocking someone, what they usually mean is that a CBP officer at a port of entry questioned them, delayed them, asked them to sign something, or referred them for more review. That can feel like a block, even if it is really an inspection decision based on the person's travel history or background. So, what do we actually know from your feed right now? The input we have is that there are reports suggesting DHS may be blocking certain green card holders from returning, creating fear and confusion.
But we do not have in this prompt any confirmed official DHS memo, new law, or official program name. So we are going to treat this as a reported trend or viral claim and focus on what is always true about reentry, what could trigger problems, and how to protect yourself without panicking. And yes, we will talk about airport and border risks because most issues happen at the port of entry, not in the sky. The single biggest concept to understand is this. A green card holder is a lawful permanent resident, and that status gives you a strong right to live in the United States. But re-entry after travel is still an inspection. CBP has authority at the border to ask questions and review admissibility. Most of the time it is quick, sometimes it is not.
And the difference usually comes down to a small set of red flags. Here is the key question CBP is always trying to answer when you return. Are you still truly residing in the United States as a permanent resident? And are you admissible based on your history? That is it. Not politics, not vibes. Residence and admissibility. Let me define the players in plain English because people mix them up. DHS is the parent department. Under DHS, you have CBP, which is who you meet at the airport or land border. CBP does the inspection at the port of entry. USCIS handles benefits and applications inside the US, like replacing a green card, naturalization, re-entry permits, and many other filings. ICE is enforcement inside the US, generally separate from your airport inspection, but still under DHS. So when a post says DHS is blocking returns, it is often a CBP inspection issue at the port of entry. Now, can a green card holder be refused entry? Myth versus reality time. Myth. A green card means you can never be stopped and you can always walk in. Reality. A green card holder can be placed in secondary inspection, can be asked to provide more information, can be issued a notice to appear in immigration court in serious cases, and in some situations can be found inadmissible or considered to have abandoned residence. But also reality. CBP cannot simply cancel your status on the spot in most cases without due process, unless you voluntarily give it up. That is why what you say and what you sign matters so much. This is where people get denied in the sense of being pressured into a decision. Now let us talk about who is most likely to be affected if there is increased scrutiny, or if officers are applying the existing rules more aggressively. Bucket 1. Long absences abroad. If you stayed outside the US for a long time, especially close to or over a year, expect questions. Even trips longer than 6 months can raise eyebrows.
It does not automatically mean you lose anything, but it increases the chance of secondary inspection because officers want to know if you still live in the US. Bucket 2. Repeated long trips that look like you live abroad. For example, you spend 8 months outside, come back for a few weeks, then leave again for 8 months. That pattern can look like you are using the green card as a travel document instead of living in the US. Bucket 3. Certain criminal history, including arrests, charges, or convictions. Even old cases can trigger a computer hit. Expunged does not always mean invisible at the border. Bucket 4. Prior immigration issues. That can include past misrepresentation, prior removal orders, prior immigration fraud findings, or certain visa overstays before you got your green card. Bucket 5. Documentation problems. An expired green card can still sometimes be used with proper evidence of extension, but it can complicate travel. A lost card is a major issue.
Also, if you are a conditional resident and your card is expired, but you have a receipt notice extending it, you want to understand how airlines and CBP view that. Bucket 6. National security or watch list matches. Sometimes it is not you. It is someone with a similar name or date of birth. That can cause delays and repeated secondary inspections. Here is a micro hook. Two groups are at highest risk of a scary airport moment, and both are preventable. One is the long absence group, where planning ahead matters. The other is the paperwork and background group, where having the right documents and knowing what not to sign matters. Now, who is usually not affected? Let us be clear, because this is where panic spreads unnecessarily. If you are a green card holder taking a normal short trip, like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you maintain a home in the US, you have a job or school ties, you file US taxes as a resident when required, and you do not have a problematic criminal or immigration history, your risk of being blocked is low. You can still be asked basic questions. You can still be randomly selected for extra screening. But most people in this group come back normally. Another myth versus reality. Myth: if CBP sends you to secondary, you are in trouble. Reality: secondary inspection is often just more time and more questions. Sometimes it is a name check. Sometimes it is verifying a document. It can still feel intimidating, but it is not automatically a denial. The problem is when secondary turns into pressure to abandon your status, or when an officer believes the facts show abandonment or inadmissibility. Now let us talk about what could be driving reports like this. Even without a new official announcement, there are a few reasons you can see a spike in stories. First, enforcement emphasis can shift. That does not require a brand new law. It can be a change in training, supervision, or priorities. Second, travel volumes change. When travel spikes around holidays or global events, more people with complicated situations travel, and more stories appear. Third, social media amplifies outlier cases. One dramatic story gets reposted as if it is happening to everyone.
And fourth, confusion between airline boarding problems and CBP entry decisions. Airlines sometimes refuse boarding if they do not understand your documentation. That is not DHS blocking you, but it can feel the same when you are stuck at a foreign airport. So, what are the real-world consequences if you get caught in this? Let me walk you through what it can look like at the airport. You land. At primary inspection, the officer scans your green card and passport, asks where you live, how long you were gone, what you do for work, and maybe asks about your trip. If something flags, you go to secondary. In secondary, they may look at your travel history, ask for proof of residence, ask about employment, and in some cases ask questions that feel accusatory like, do you live here or do you live abroad? They might also ask about any arrests or charges.
The biggest risk moments are these: being accused of abandoning residence, or being asked to sign Form I-407, which is a record of abandonment of lawful permanent resident status. If you sign that, it can be treated as you voluntarily giving up your green card. Here is the part most people miss. You do not have to sign away your status just because an officer suggests it, especially if you believe you still reside in the US and you want to contest the claim. You can ask to speak with an attorney, you can ask for more time, and you can ask about your options. I am not telling you what to do in your specific case. But you should understand that signing anything at the airport without understanding it is one of the fastest ways to create a problem that did not need to exist. Now, 2 short example scenarios, because this makes it real. Example scenario 1. Long trip abroad. Maria is a lawful permanent resident. She traveled to care for a sick parent and stayed abroad for 9 months. She kept her apartment in the US, her job held her position, and she continued paying bills. When she returns, CBP sends her to secondary and asks whether she lives in the US. Maria stays calm and answers consistently. She provides evidence on her phone and in a folder: a lease, recent pay stubs, a letter from her employer, and proof she filed taxes as a resident. She is eventually admitted, but it takes 2 hours. The lesson is not that she was blocked. The lesson is that her trip length triggered questions and documentation helped. Example scenario 2. Old arrest record. Kevin has a green card and took a 2-week trip. At the airport, CBP pulls him into secondary because a database shows an old arrest from years ago that was dismissed. Kevin has no documents with him. He starts guessing and explaining nervously, and his story sounds inconsistent. The officer delays him to verify records. Kevin is admitted, but with a warning to bring court dispositions next time. The lesson: even dismissed cases can trigger questions, and having official court paperwork can reduce delays. Now let us get practical. If you are watching this because you need to travel soon, here is a simple do this and avoid this checklist. Do this before you leave. Check that your green card is valid and not expired. If it is expired, do not assume it is fine just because you have a photo. If you have a receipt that extends validity, understand what document combination you need to travel. If you are a conditional resident with a pending petition, verify what evidence of extension you have. Do this. Keep a travel folder, physical or digital, with proof of U.S. residence. Examples include a lease or mortgage statement, utility bills, recent pay stubs, an employment verification letter, school enrollment, and evidence of immediate family in the U.S.
Do this. If you have any criminal history at all, even if it was dismissed or expunged, get the official court disposition and keep a copy. Do this. If you have long travel planned, think carefully about trip length and ties. If you anticipate being outside for a long period, talk to a qualified attorney ahead of time and look into tools that exist for longer absences, such as a reentry permit, if appropriate for you. I am naming that as a general concept, not as a recommendation for your case. Do this. Make sure your address with USCIS is current where required, and keep copies of key filings and notices. Avoid this. Do not travel if your only plan is to figure it out at the airport. If something is complicated, preparation is cheaper than a missed flight. Avoid this. Do not carry contradictory evidence. For example, if you tell CBP you live in the US but your phone shows you have been working abroad full-time, that inconsistency can create suspicion.
Avoid this. Do not say you moved abroad permanently and then expect to be admitted as a resident. Words matter. Avoid this. Do not sign any document you do not understand, especially anything that sounds like giving up status. You can ask what it is, ask for an interpreter if needed, and ask for time to review. Now, what should you do at the airport when you come back? First, keep your answers short and consistent. Where do you live? Give your US address. How long were you gone? Give the honest time frame. Why were you traveling? Family visit, work trip, school break, whatever the truth is. If you are sent to secondary, stay calm. Secondary is not a courtroom, but it is serious. Ask what they need to verify. Provide documents. Do not argue. Do not guess. If you do not know an exact date, say you do not remember the exact date and offer to check your travel records. Here is another myth versus reality. Myth: being quiet or requesting help makes you look guilty. Reality: politely asking for clarification and requesting to speak with counsel in a serious situation is normal. Now, let us address the big question that everyone asks. can you safely travel? For many green card holders, yes. But safety here depends on your profile. If you have short trips, stable U.S. residence, and no major issues, the risk is low. If you have long absences, complicated history, or documentation problems, the risk increases. This is why blanket statements like "no green card holder can travel" are not accurate, and also why the opposite statement, "nothing ever happens," is not accurate either. The truth is in the risk buckets. Here is a quick segment for saves and shares. If you are in Group A, do B. If you are planning to be outside the U.S. for a long time, do not wing it. Before you book, gather evidence of U.S. ties, consider whether you need a re-entry strategy, and speak with a qualified attorney if your situation is not straightforward.
If you are in Group B, meaning you have any arrest, charge, conviction, or past immigration issue, get your paperwork in order and do not assume it will never come up at the airport. Now, what should you watch next if these reports continue? Watch point 1, official statements or updated guidance from CBP or DHS. If something is truly changing, you will usually see clarifying guidance, updated traveler information, or public-facing Q&A. Watch point 2, patterns. Are the stories concentrated around long absences, certain ports of entry, or certain fact patterns? That helps you separate trend from rumor. Watch point 3, airline carrier advisories. Sometimes the practical problem is airlines refusing boarding because they are confused about documents, and then CBP never even sees the traveler. Watch point 4, legal challenges or advocacy alerts if there is a claim of broad policy change.
Again, we cannot confirm any of that from the input, so we stick to what you can verify. And here is what you can verify safely: your own documents, your own travel patterns, and official agency pages and case tools. Now, a final important point. If a video or post claims DHS has announced a brand new rule but does not show an official source, treat it as unconfirmed. It might still reflect a real experience, but that is different from a nationwide rule. The most responsible approach is what we are doing. Plan for the reality that inspection can be strict, but do not panic and do not assume you are banned. Let us recap in 5 quick points. 1. The current claim is reported, but we do not have confirmed details in this prompt, so do not treat viral posts as official policy by default. 2. CBP at the port of entry controls inspection, and the key issues are residence and admissibility. 3. The highest risk patterns are long or repeated absences, criminal or immigration history, and documentation problems. 4. Preparation reduces risk. Carry proof of U.S. residence, carry court dispositions if relevant, and make sure your documents are valid. 5. At the airport, stay calm, be consistent, do not guess, and do not sign anything you do not understand. If you want, comment below with your travel scenario in general terms, like trip length and whether you have any special factors, and I will tell you which risk bucket it sounds like and what documents are commonly helpful to bring. And if you want updates on verified DHS, CBP, and USCIS changes without the panic, subscribe and turn on notifications, because when there is something official, we will break it down in plain English, with sources, and with a checklist you can actually use.